Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. A couple of years ago, I decided to do something crazy, and that was write my very first book. And well, 2 years ago today, in fact, the 27th of September, my book was officially published in the US and around the world, which to me is honestly astounding at the actual journey that it took to get this book published, because no one really wanted to believe in, at the time, a 25-year-old young author that wrote a book about some of the things that he's been through and overcome, and it didn't really have much of a big audience to sell a book. And the journey that I went on to get this book published, not just here in Australia, but firstly in the US, was enormous. And I'm grateful for my editor and my publisher, Post Hill Press, for giving me a chance and for allowing me to publish this book, because I know that it's helped quite a few people. I've had messages from those that have been helped, and all of you guys that are watching and continue to support my show. I hope that you can consider getting your own copy, whether it's a hardcover copy or it's the audio version, which I did narrate, because I do fundamentally want to help people realize their worth and reach their full potential, which this book definitely helps people uncover. And it also speaks the truth. So I think that is paramount in today's day and age, where a lot of people, they don't like the truth or don't see the truth as really the truth. They look at their own truth and they say, well, my truth is better than the truth. And they just confuse the living hell out of themselves because of it. And as a result, we've got all these issues in our society today. So I hope that you would consider, if you want to know more about my story and what I've been through. And by the way, this doesn't even begin to cover many of the stuff, just like it's a surface level take on my journey. And I hope to write many more books. I've got quite a few ideas, and I'm writing one at the moment, so we'll see what becomes of that in the not too distant future. But anyway, my friends, I thought that I would get that over the way and say happy anniversary to my first ever book, 2 years old today. That's incredible. Links are available in the show description if you guys want to get your own copy, and I hope that you do. Anyway, so this story is quite a crazy one, so we'll just dive right into it, okay? So an exclusive, this is from Redux. Genevieve Gluck wrote it on the 18th of September this year. Indiana Department of Corrections ordered to arrange transgender baby killers' gender surgeries after ACLU-backed lawsuit. Well, how about that, right? So this is the individual that killed his own baby and now wants to be identified as trans, and then also have the state corrections facility fund this dude's gender surgeries. I mean, come off it. And then he ends up getting the ACLU to back it. Like, the ACLU should be utterly ashamed of itself, and the corrections facility should actually stand its ground and say, hell no, we're not doing this. I don't care if the ACLU tells us off or whatever else. Like, we are the state corrections facility. What this person did was pure evil and disgusting and despicable, and we're not going to fund his fetish of sorts. Anyway, the ACLU has successfully fought to have a transgender baby killer be given taxpayer-funded gender-affirming surgeries. That sentence alone should send chills down each and every one of your spines. The ACLU has successfully fought. They are fighting for a dude that killed a baby, for goodness sake. What does that tell you about the ACLU, their character? They got none. Yesterday, the United States District Court of Indiana ruled that Autumn Cordileone, born Jonathan C. Richardson, had been subjected to cruel and unusual punishment by being denied the various plastic surgeries he had demanded. Let me just get this straight. It's been ruled by a court that it's cruel and unusual punishment that this dude doesn't get what his fantasy and his so-called desires that he wants. But yet we're forgetting the crime that he committed was cruel and deserves a long punishment, a very long punishment. He took away an innocent baby's life, for goodness sake, and then tattooed himself afterwards. Like, the guy's a sicko and whack job, and yet the ACLU and the court have ruled in his favor to get him fake breast implants and then all the other transgender surgeries that go along with it because he wanted it. That's problematic on a number of levels, man. The world is just wow. And not many people are actually covering this story. I'm glad the Redux is actually covering it. Richardson is currently serving a 55-year sentence for the murder of his 11-month-old stepdaughter. Not even his real daughter. So he killed someone else's kid. As previously reported by Redux, Richardson had been left to care for the child while her mother was at work. That night, he was visited by friends who observed he was acting strangely and refused to invite them in the house as he normally would. Despite claiming the little girl was sleeping, Richardson had loud music playing in the home, and his guests noted that he appeared to have fresh bleeding tattoos of the child's name carved in his arm. That's sadistic, man. Big time sadistic move. Shortly after his friends left, Richardson went to his neighbor's home and asked them to call 911, claiming the child was unresponsive. The baby would later die at the hospital, with the cause of death determined by asphyxiation by manual strangulation. Unbelievable. Richardson was booked awaiting a court hearing and would later tell a prison official, "All I know is I killed a little effing..." Yeah. The following year, he was found guilty and sentenced to 55 years in prison. The guy is not right or well, as clearly stated. But anyway, if a transgender individual goes, "I want this and I want that," let's forget about what that person has actually done. Let's give this trans person everything that this person so desires. Forget about the fact that the person murdered an innocent baby, for goodness sake, and then got a tattoo inscribed into him to remember it. The guy's satanic, man. Oh, dear, oh dear. In 2020, while incarcerated at the Correctional Industrial Facility in Madison, Richardson began identifying as transgender. Of course he did, because he found a bloody loophole. And taking estradiol, a synthetic estrogen, and anti-androgen spiroclotine. Can't even pronounce it, sorry. 2 years later, Richardson lodged a sexual harassment complaint claiming that he had been R-worded by his cellmate in 2005 and that he stabbed the inmate in retaliation. I'll say it again, man. The guy's not well at all. Like, he's deranged. He's a lunatic. But yet, sure, let the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union. Great, they're a union. Goes to show you everything they're about. Anyway, despite the brutal nature of his crime, the ACLU in Indiana took up his case and launched a human rights lawsuit against the Indiana Department of Corrections. Unbelievable, man. They're obviously like, this person identifies as trans, so therefore we've got a winning case. Straight up. Doesn't matter what he's done, the brutal intentions or the brutal nature of his actual crime. Let's just go in and we're going to win this case for sure, man. In the suit, which was filed in August of 2023, ACLU lawyers referred to Richardson as an adult transgender female prisoner confined in a male institution. Unacceptable. Guys, come on. You got to fix this up. We've got to put this transgender female biological dude in this confined male prison. We've got to move him to a female-only prison, you know? Like, that's the right thing to do. And complains that the total ban on gender-affirming surgery violates his right to be free from cruel, unusual punishment under the 8th Amendment. Talk about a major loophole, man. The only ones that win in this scenario are the bloody lawyers and the transgender individual that's getting away scot-free by the looks of things to have his fantasy fulfilled. He doesn't deserve anything but to rot in prison and eventually in hell. He doesn't repent. But anyway, the suit was intended to challenge a recently adopted policy stipulating that the IDOC cannot provide transgender surgeries to inmates. House Bill 1569, which took effect in July of 2023, bans the spending of state or federal dollars on sexual reassignment surgery for inmates. So I'm glad they got that bill in there. Otherwise, the lawyers would have a field day. But anyway, the bill, the ACLU argues, mandates deliberate indifference to a serious medical need and therefore violates the Eighth Amendment. Oh, it's a serious medical need, is it? My goodness me. We are doomed as a society, aren't we? Among a list of demands prepared by Richardson and presented as evidence in court was a document titled Surgeries to Reach Myself, My Ideal Self. It's like these people are just mocking us and making fun of us, aren't they? Anyway, they're bending the rule of law to suit their own whims and their own desires, and they're getting away with it at that. The first item on the list the court heard was a vagina, followed by breast implants, a brow lift, a brow reduction, a tummy tuck, gluteal implants, a uterus transplant, hair removal, and wigs. He wants the full kit and caboodle, people. However, during court proceedings, Richardson stated that he had amended his demands. Oh, it's demands. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, demands, to 2 surgeries. So he wants his penis removed and have it have it inverted into that of a vaginoplasty. Anyway, in addition to identifying as transgender, Richardson identifies as Muslim. Just add it to the mix, people. More identities thrown into the mix, the better it will be for your case. And is currently engaged in a separate lawsuit against his prison's chaplain for being denied a hijab. Mate, this guy's having an absolute field day in prison. It's like he knows. He knows that if this identity crap gets into the mix, he's going to win. Like, it's absurd. This is the problem with self-identification. What's next? He's going to identify as being a black man and then gets all these other privileges that black people get? Mate. During his deposition, Richardson told the legal counsel for the IDOC, Alex Carlisle, that in 2018 he had been informed about gender identity by another male inmate at CIF who went by the name of Pearl. According to Richardson, Pearl had brought in pamphlets from California state prisons, say no more, California, that explained the concept of gender identity and introduced to him for the first time the idea of taking feminizing hormones. With the added benefit, if you do this, you're going to be able to rort the system and bend it to your own needs, wants, and desires. Even though this person doesn't have any needs, but they're all wants and desires. I always knew I was a girl. Oh, there we go. I can say the exact same line. I always knew that I was a girl too. Didn't know that the term applied because until I talked to Pearl, it's always that, right? Like I always knew that I was a girl, but I didn't actually officially know until, well, a pamphlet told me and I heard it from somebody else. Somebody else told me exactly what I thought that I was for such a long time. Oh dear, oh dear. You just can't, man. Like these people are insane. I didn't even really know transgender was the name for it. Oh my goodness. I was hearing at the time that it was transsexualism, tranny, and that didn't seem to fit me because it was apparently people like to wear clothes to have sex, Richardson said in his deposition. However, Richardson also stated that while briefly married to the mother of the infant he murdered, he had been working in an adult bookstore that sold while employed as a janitor. Richardson would various male customers while pretending to be a girl. Guy's like completely messed up. Like there's no other way. He's evil. He's demonic. Something wrong with him. Richardson further testified that he had taken the feminine name Autumn after his high school girlfriend and said that he used to steal his sister's clothing and his mother's makeup as a youth. When I put on the clothes, I could for a second realize the girl inside. But clearly, this person has got no help whatsoever over the course of his life. And as a result, he's gotten into porn. He's gotten into all these things. And we all know what that does. It messes you up big time. Oh, boy. I felt I was only a woman when a man used me, Richardson remarked. It was the only acceptable time to be a woman, so it brought me a certain amount of satisfaction that I was pleasuring. Oh boy, I'm going to skip that. But the mother of the baby girl Richardson strangled to death opposed his legal bid to obtain surgery. Linda Thomas submitted a brief statement expressing her concern that his identity may be concealed from her when he is released from prison. Yeah, what happens when he's released from prison, huh? On the day he murdered my child, I personally observed plaintiff with a fresh bleeding tattoo of my child's name on his arm while I was at the hospital that evening, Thomas said. I live in fear for myself and my children of the day Richardson is released from prison, which largely increases at the thought that his identity may be concealed upon release. ACLU attorneys under the leadership of Kenneth Falk, should be ashamed of yourself, mate, attempted to have Thomas's testimony dismissed as court evidence on the basis that Miss Corleone objected to the relevance of this declaration. Okay, I'm just going to object to the fact that the woman that I murdered her child, I'm going to object to her being in fear of me and having my identity concealed when I leave. Oh, boy. During court proceedings, Kate Meltzer, a legal representative for the Office of the Attorney General, emphasized an issue of timeliness related to Richardson's attempts to secure an early release. Dear oh dear, this is just getting worse and worse. Anyway, finishing this off, the ruling issued by Judge Richard Young, again, the judge should be ashamed of yourself, on September 17th has far-reaching implications that set a precedent, a dangerous one of that, for further surgeries and hormones to be doled out at taxpayers' expense. Why should taxpayers have to pay for this demonic, evil, twisted son of a you-know-what have his wants and his desires met? The verdict declares that the statute added to Indiana's legal code in 2023, barring the DOC from facilitating medically necessary gender-affirming surgeries for inmates, qualifies as, here we go, sex discrimination. Good grief. In a statement on Richardson's legal win, ACLU of Indiana legal director Kenneth Falk said, today marks a significant victory for transgender individuals in Indiana prisons. I don't even know what, well, I do know what to say, but I'll probably get banned if I say it. Denying evidence-based medical care to incarcerated people simply because they are transgender is unconstitutional. Told you, the lawyers are having a bloody field day with this. It's like they're going, this is an easy win. We're going to, we're going to make a mockery out of the court is what we're going to do. And you know what? The people are going to have to pay for this sicko's stuff. So the lawyers should be utterly ashamed of themselves. They shouldn't actually be lawyers, but hey, they are. We are pleased that the court agreed. The court has issues as well. The ACLU has pursued multiple lawsuits in several states against the U.S. prison authorities on behalf of men convicted of horrific crimes, as revealed by Redux, a 2019 ACL lawsuit against the New Jersey Department of Corrections, which required the state to allow violent male inmates to self-identify into the Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for Women, was lodged on behalf of a self-admitted diaper fetish and convicted terrorist. Loophole, man. Big time. Last year, the ACLU of Florida criticized officials for not providing gender-affirming care to a convicted R-wordist and murderer prior to his execution. Dwayne Owen had been handed a death sentence after brutally murdering a 38-year-old mother and a 14-year-old girl in 1984. Owen claimed that he sexually assaulted the women, as part of a ritual to harvest their hormones, and that he was a transsexual who carried out the sexual violence to turn himself into a female. Yuck, man. Like, good grief. Is it any wonder, like, we're seeing so many people that identify as being trans committing heinous acts of violence? You had the Covenant's Christian school shooter. You had so many others that identify as this, carrying out horrific acts of violence, and people are going, oh, but we must protect trans people. They're are marginalized and they're a hated community and all that sort of stuff. Well, it looks like to me, the more they get protected, the more they lash out like this. Gee, I don't know. Just evidence upon evidence, man, is mounting up. And to me, it's not good at all. It needs to stop. People just need to grow the hell up and actually go, no, enough's enough. We're not going to give you this so-called loophole that you have found. We're going to actually uphold the real law here, common sense, decency, and rationale. If someone has done a horrific act like that guy did, he doesn't deserve anything but to rot in prison, man. He doesn't have any of these other so-called rights. He left that all out when he killed the innocent young kid, the baby. He's a baby killer. But, we don't see it as that. Absolutely disgusting. Anyhow, my friends, sorry about the shocking nature of this, but you guys take care, you be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.